Hello, Milwaukee Bucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Bucks Latest, presented by the good people over at FanArch. As always, I'm your host, Dean Simon. And before we get into everything, please make sure to leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe. We're still on that road to 2,000 subs, so if that's a journey you feel compelled to join, please consider doing so and pressing that big red subscribe button down below. Also, don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss out on future Milwaukee Bucks updates. And before we get into everything, massive shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Once again, huge shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is Giannis Antetokounmpo coming out to The Athletic and basically confirming reports, and to The Athletic, Sam Amick. I want to just give credit where credit is due. For locking down and a pretty lengthy interview with Giannis, kind of giving him the chance to really clear things up, and like it says in the segment title, to shut down the trade rumors. So Giannis's response and his explanation to if he would ever actually request a trade, he said this: there will never be a chance, and there will never be a moment that I will come out and say, I want a trade. That's not, and then dramatic pauses, that's not in my nature. Okay. And then further on, he continues below. I need to actually get back to the question that Sam Amick asked him. Sam Amick asks him, uh, I wanted to see if you were willing and comfortable to say, listen, I'm not going anywhere right now, as if he were Giannis. And Giannis's response: I am not. I am invested in this team. I want to turn this team around. I want to play good basketball. I want to be healthy. I want to help my teammates. I want to win games. The last 6 games we've played were 4-2. We have a lot of games in front of us. I'm locked. The expletive in. I'm locked in. My priority is just staying healthy. So now that we've kind of shut down the trade talks, and I give these air quotes because you can never really shut down the trade rumors with Giannis. And even though he's come out now multiple times to say, I don't know what everybody's talking about. I've never said that I wanted to go anywhere. What's everybody, all up in a rise for? It's because he has, and he continues to. And I think the way that he thinks about these things is that, okay, the only thing that counts is if I legitimately come out and say, I want to trade, or I am thinking about being traded actively. And if he doesn't say those exact words, then he can say whatever he wants to insinuate that he might be feeling that way, that he might actually want a trade. But that's just not how things go. People can read into your words, and people can kind of decipher the meaning of what you're saying. And I feel like he just thinks that that's not the case, and that the only way that he could actually ruffle feathers with fans or the media or whatever is if he actually says, I want to trade. But that's not the case, as he's come out before and said, I really do like to be here, but, let's say in 5, 6 months, if we're terrible, then, I'm going to see what my options are with regard to winning. You're telling me that's not a little inkling that maybe you're feeling like a trade could be possible or could be on the table, or that at least you're thinking about it? Because it's impossible to say that it's not. It's impossible to say that those kinds of little things, again, with Giannis being as legendary as he is, with kind of dinking and diving and avoiding the media, and also going to the media and saying these 1 foot in, 1 foot out statements. He's become a master at this. There's no way that you can convince me that the little, like, people can see the subtext in which he's saying. That's really all I'm getting to. Though he has come out and really denied these kinds of rumors, denied that there's any chance that he would request a trade. There's just way too many previous examples and way too many kind of things connecting him to different teams and different players and things like that. Little, weird things that he says, that it doesn't really make any sense. And I feel like I saw this somewhere. I forget who said it, but basically someone came out and said that this is Giannis's way of kind of like, he's not trying to feel guilty about wanting a trade, because I think the general reaction to Giannis in the first place, maybe this past offseason or whenever, if the initial words from Giannis were, all right, I think it's time, I want to trade, I want to move on, fans wouldn't be nearly as upset as with him as they are when he's, doing these things where he's 1 foot in, 1 foot out. There's a level of respect that comes with just being forthright and just coming out with it and saying that I want a trade, because we know what he's had to deal with this team over the past couple of years since they won the championship, and that they haven't gone past the first round since. We can see these things, we can see his level of frustration, and we can understand it. But what we can't understand is him, saying that he's staying, or saying that he's thinking about his options, or that he really wants to win, and wherever that's going to be, that's where he's going to end up. You can't say those kinds of things and then try to act like you've given the indication that you're just here flat out. So that's really all I'm saying with this. Maybe this is going to be the final one of these that we get. I don't think it's going to be. I think there's going to be reports coming in the next month or so, especially if the Bucks were to, not a pessimistic take or anything, but if the Bucks were to go on a bad losing streak or something, let's say, then I feel like these reports, at least random reports from the media, can start up again, and I feel like we're still not near the end of these kinds of conversations, even past the trade deadline. So yeah, that's my little thing on Giannis. I know I've talked about this and his ability to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out with the media, but I feel like now it's really it's kind of funny to me that in this way I feel like it's reaching a fever pitch, even though he's completely shutting it down with these kinds of talks. But yeah, we're gonna move on from that stuff because it makes me sick. The Bucks waived Mark Sears, which was a pretty interesting thing. One thing that I will say about Mark Sears is that I really enjoyed his fearlessness and the fact that he was, obviously he wasn't playing anything close or resembling consistent minutes. He didn't really play flat out, but but I feel like here I'm just going to pull his stats up really quick. Mark Sears, his fearlessness is something that really struck and hit me when he would come in for the last 6 minutes of a blowout or 8 minutes of a blowout, or that one game, I think it was against the Pistons, I believe, where he came in and he was just jacking up shots and he was trying to help the Bucks, kind of stage a little comeback, but he was letting threes go. He was letting layups high off the backboard that would drop in go. And these are shots that guys would take when they're actually already in the rhythm of the game. At least from a confidence standpoint, those are the kinds of shots that after you're in the game for 20 minutes, you're taking a layup high off glass over the contest of a 7-footer. But Mark Sears, the way that he was just able to get into his shot and act as if he wasn't just sitting on the bench for the first 44 minutes of the game and then he just checks in. I really respected that about him, and I really did like his jump shot. His 3-point shot looked pretty fantastic to me, and for the season, 7 games worth of a season, he shot 50% from three, and maybe I could see the totals here for how many attempts that actually is. Um, 4 for 8 from three, but hey, he was hitting shots. He scored 22 points on the season as a whole. The one thing though that you don't really love is that in those 26 total minutes that he played, spanning those 7 games, he did score 22 points, but that also came with 4 turnovers in 26 minutes and 4 personal fouls. The 4 turnovers being more than the 2 assists that he had across those 26 minutes, across those 7 games. Of course, you can't really nitpick with these kinds of, end of the game, you're just checking in, coming off the end of the bench stats. But really overall, I really did love Mark Sears' fearlessness, his ability to get right into a shot off the bench, and like I said before, just act as if he wasn't even sitting down for the first 44 minutes of the game. But the Bucks will be without him for the rest of things. So goodbye, kind of, to Mark Sears. If we meet again down the road, I would really appreciate that. Fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at this upcoming game, Bucks Lakers, and I'm going to be selecting a few guys. I'm going to select Kevin Porter Jr. for higher than 29.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And I'm also going to be selecting Luka Doncic of the Lakers for higher. I am smashing the higher on 53.5 points, rebounds, and assists. It sounds ridiculous. I know it does, but that's the choice, the conscious choice that I'm making there. Higher on 53.5 points, rebounds, and assists for Luka. Download the app today and use promo code BASKETBALLFAN to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Once again, that is promo code BASKETBALLFAN. Underdog. Make picks. Win money. So moving forward, we actually have a new segment here where I'm just going to kind of detail a player or multiple players that I'm really looking at to go higher than their projections in the coming game. And of course, we see here Giannis Antetokounmpo, since coming back from the injury, is averaging about 31 points a game. But he's not really going to be the focus of the players that I'm picking, though he is indirectly. We'll kind of get into that. So for one, I am a guy that's going to be having Giannis to go higher than 30 points a game if that were an option. Though I haven't been able to make a play on Giannis's projections for this coming game, but if that were available, Giannis Antetokounmpo higher than 30 points or let's say 48 or 50 points, rebounds, and assists, I would smash the higher. And I would also smash the higher on guys like Kevin Porter Jr., who I did mention before, and also as kind of a backup or a fail safe kind of option, is Ryan Rollins. And I think about when a Bucks team like this is going against a Lakers team like this that struggles with their defense around the basket. They kind of hang around in the same kind of areas in the leaderboards as the Bucks do with regard to not necessarily points in the paint, because the Bucks are a lot better in that avenue, but the Lakers just don't really put up much of a fight outside of an older kind of decrepit Marcus Smart and Rui Hachimura and Jared Vanderbilt out there on the perimeter. So I think that what's going to happen in this game is that Kevin Porter Jr. is going to get a couple of favorable matchups against Luka Doncic, against some of the Lakers, less favorable defensive players out on the perimeter. And KPJ is going to blow by, and KPJ is going to drop off some dimes to Giannis. And the rebounding, too, I feel like, obviously KPJ has been tremendous rebounding the ball in recent games and over the past like 5 games for him. But I'm going to go higher on his 29.5 points, rebounds, and assists because in turn, there's going to be no resistance for KPJ just making that initial drive. Then there's going to be no resistance really around the basket for Giannis Antetokounmpo to finish plays or for Miles Turner to stretch out to the three-point line. DeAndre Ayton is the Lakers' biggest guy underneath the basket. He's kind of their main stalwart defensively. And I feel like Giannis, we saw what he did against DeAndre Ayton in the 2021 NBA Finals, and the mix of Giannis and Miles Turner spacing out for the to the three-point line, this is the exact opponent where that kind of mix is going to be its most dangerous, and where guys like KPJ and guys like Ryan Rollins are going to feast in the assist column. And the reason also I figure I mentioned why I'm going higher, so much higher on Luka Doncic's 53.5 points, rebounds, and assists is because there's no Austin Reeves, or at least I believe he's been ruled out for this game, and also Rui Hachimura too. So that's really going to do some things for Luka. He's kind of going to be handling that ball more than ever. So it seems like that's going to be an easy mark for him to hit, especially with or without LeBron James, but we'll see. But overall, Kevin Porter Jr. is going to have an easier time, I feel, scoring the ball because Ryan Rollins maybe might draw that Marcus Smart defensive matchup just because they're more similar in body type and height. And KPJ might get a guy like, I don't even know, because there's not many great Lakers defenders out there on the perimeter that could match up with KPJ. So I feel like he's going to feast. He's going to go higher than that 29.5 points, rebounds, and assists, mostly due to the fact that I think the 10 assist figure, he's going to also go higher than. I think he's going to surpass 10 assists in this coming game, along with the scoring, along with his improved rebounding, how he's going to be feeding Giannis down low. I think that that's the way that he's going to reach higher than his projections. So yeah, with that being said, KPJ hammering the higher on 29.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Luka Doncic hammering the higher on 53.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Thank you very much once again to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring the video. All right, so we got a pretty bad update, pretty bad injury update for once that doesn't actually involve the Milwaukee Bucks. It involves the Los Angeles Clippers and Derrick Jones Jr., who has been one of my favorite trade targets, potential trade targets for the Milwaukee Bucks as the deadline day on February 5th gets closer. He's going to be a guy, or he was going to be a guy that was going to be at the top of my list because he gives the Bucks everything really that they need. An explosive athlete, a really capable defender, just again a super uber athletic option in transition, can sky for lobs, and then he's also developed into a decent 3-point shooter that can shoot maybe around 35% on threes for a given season, while giving you that incredible defense and just defensive versatility in general. But he has been injured again. He did something to the MCL in his knee. I believe it was his left knee, I want to say, a couple weeks back, almost probably 2 months ago. And he was out for at least, a 6 to 8 week period. He made a return. And then 4 games into that return, he wound up getting the same exact injury on the same exact knee, and he's going to be out for the same exact kind of timetable where it's going to be at least 6 weeks he's going to be shelved. So that pushes past obviously the February 5th deadline, so he's no longer an option really. And also just considering even when he comes back, who knows what he's going to be at least for the rest of this season after coming back from two injuries of that kind of severity in the same exact spot, same exact knee. Who knows? I think he's still going to be fine moving forward, but you just don't necessarily want to take that risk. But Najee Marshall of the Dallas Mavericks would be next on my list of trade targets, at least wing trade targets that are exceptional defensively, that can also kind of go a little bit crazy, a little bit rambunctious on offense from time to time. I think I've said before, Najee Marshall's right hand floater is one of the best in the league, and that's kind of besides all the great skills and what he actually brings to the team for the Dallas Mavericks. But that right hand floater, it is absolutely automatic. I guarantee you that if you were to look at his shot, you know what? I'm just going to do it to maybe try and show myself. Well, actually, I just realized I can't get the actual floater statistics up, sadly enough. But one thing I can do is look at the percentages, I believe, within 0 to 3 feet for a guy like Najee Marshall. And nope, I'm just completely kidding. Anyways, Najee Marshall can shoot the ball from time to time. He'll, kind of flirt with a 34% three-point shooting percentage, but it's really what he does as a very smart and, just high IQ player in general off the dribble. He can penetrate pretty easily. I feel like he has a quicker first step than people realize. And he can either get that floater off or he can just make the nice extra pass. He's just a very good connective piece in that way, and a piece that if the Mavericks were really competitive, he would be a fantastic guy for a deep postseason run, an NBA Finals run. He's that kind of guy that you need on a championship contending team for again just his all around versatility. And Najee Marshall, that would be logically the next guy up for me. Of course, there's guys like Royce O'Neal with the Phoenix Suns, but I feel like it's just not going to be as likely because the Suns have been exceeding all and every expectation that was set for them in the before the season started. So even though Royce O'Neal would be the league's better 3-point shooter out of the two and would maybe make a little bit more sense, Najee Marshall would be the pick because if anything, the Mavericks are going to be more likely to be sellers as kind of the deadline comes around and they're kind of figuring out what their direction is going to be as a team. Are they going to let go of Anthony Davis? Are they going to initiate this, this rebuild with Cooper Flag? Like, what are they going to do? I think in that respect, Najee Marshall would be the more likely target, and I feel like he would fit in with this Bucks team a lot better than a lot of other guys that could be on the move, but not necessarily Michael Porter Jr. If Michael Porter Jr. is out there and he's actually attainable for a reasonable price, I am down with that. I am down with some MPJ. Anyways, I was talking before about the injuries to Austin Reeves. I believe he's out with a calf, and Rui Hachimura is also going to be out for this game against the Bucks. So I was thinking number one for the plays for the entries that I suggested as well. The Luka Doncic over, what was it, 53.5 or higher than 53.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Um, Along with that, and that just being a good play in my eyes, we have Luka gaining more responsibility, than ever, especially because LeBron is day to day with a foot injury and he didn't play in their last game against the Spurs. And Luka balled out, had 38, 10, and 10, missed like 6 free throws, but that didn't matter. So I think with Luka having to take on that kind of responsibility, it's going to look like another one of those games against the Spurs that they just had where he shoots 32 shots, he shoots 16 free throws, maybe has 8 turnovers to pair with his 10 assists, and he's just doing everything himself. And I think the Bucks can really take advantage of that because if they get another game where, let's say, Luka Doncic and Marcus Smart combine for 11 turnovers like they did in that past game against the Spurs, the Bucks are really going to be able to take advantage of their ability to attack and transition against a Lakers team that ranks very, very low in, or I guess you could say very high in allowing transition points and allowing more opportunities than they should be giving to their opponent. So with that being said, I think the Bucks are going to have a fantastic shot, even though Luka Doncic is one of those guys that can just will a team to victory on his own, and just do everything. He's not going to be able to do that against the Bucks, and that is my official prediction. But anyways, that'll be it for this episode of Bucks Latest. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been your host, Dean Simon, and before you go, leave that like, leave that comment down below, and subscribe. Still on that road to 2K, so if you want to do that, please do so. Also, turn on those post notifications, and I'll be back with more. I'll see you guys in the next one. Go Bucks.